Great Jewish Children's Expo, geared towards the child of the 90s, is a product of the Shluchim office which provides a thorough overview of Jewish history, values, practices, and perspectives. It does so in a creative manner that rivets the attention and fires the imagination of young and old alike. The Great Jewish Children's Expo is designed to unite the generations, rekindle interest in an enhanced Jewish lifestyle, and above all provide day schools and Hebrew schools with a powerful ignition system in their efforts to inspire their students. Indeed, the Expo is a Jewish educator's dream, a visionary, interactive, awe-inspiring event that makes Judaism exciting for today's children. In addition to the main exhibit hall, the Expo also includes favorite activities such as arts and crafts, a video show, and live entertainment. The Expo was designed by top-flight professionals who created animated figures that electrify crowds as it has traveled to over 30 cities across the United States and Canada. The following scenes were filmed on tour in England in May of 1996 in diverse communities of London, Manchester, and Leeds. The Expo was displayed in different types of convention halls, which would explain the differences in lighting and scenery. It takes approximately 14 hours of preparation, which includes the unloading and setting up of the Expo for public display. Soon after, the buses begin to arrive, and the guests enter and are eagerly awaiting for their Expo tour to begin. The following is an abbreviated version of the Great Jewish Children Expo.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome all of you to the Great Jewish Children's Expo. This is a traveling exhibition that was built in 1993. We first traveled across the United States to 26 cities. On my left is a picture of the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who inspired us to build the exhibition and who dedicated his entire life to Jewish education. Our first exhibit is what we call in Hebrew, Maisa Bereshis, the 6 days of creation. The 6 days of creation will unfold before your very eyes in a very cute and unique way. next exhibit will take you through the exiles and the redemptions of the Jewish people. The speakers and the lights will carry you along as each part of the exhibit unfolds. The first one is Egypt. Enjoy.
Jewish history is full of ups and downs. Some of those down periods we call exile. Some of those up periods we call redemption. What actually happened during these exiles and redemptions? Follow along as we explore the first exile, which took place in Egypt. The Jewish people were slaves to Pharaoh for many, many years. It was a bitter life they led. So when the word came that Pharaoh finally would let the people go, there was a great deal of excitement.
Didn't you hear what Moses said? We're finally going to leave this place.
You have to be crazy to want to leave Egypt. To go to the desert?
It's a once-in-a-lifetime chance to escape slavery. Why on earth do you want to stay?
Hey, don't knock slavery. It might be hard work, but at least they give us something to eat every day. Where are you going to get food in the desert? What about the nations out there that want to kill the Jews?
You've got to have faith. Moses isn't coming on his own. He's coming as a messenger of God. The time to leave is now.
God rewarded the Jewish people who left Egypt with lots of silver, gold, and precious coins. But their best reward was receiving the Torah at Mount Sinai and entering the promised land of Israel. With the passing of time, the Jews began serving idols like their non-Jewish neighbors. They had forgotten that it was God who took them out of Egypt. The most popular idol of the day was called Baal, a great king who hated the notion that Jews would not bow down to him. At the time of Antiochus, there lived a very righteous woman named Hannah who had 7 sons. So even in the darkest of times, the Jews never gave up hope that one day God would end their suffering and that this exile would be the last exile the Jewish people would ever have to suffer. We admire the courage our ancestors showed throughout the ages and join with those who always ended their Passover Seders with the one song that best expresses our desire and belief.
The next exhibit will take us through some of the great Jewish leaders throughout our history.
Let's meet Moses. Moses was sent by God to liberate the Jewish people from their slavery in Egypt. He performed many extraordinary miracles. One of them took place immediately after the Jews left Egypt. This was the wonderful... Joshua, son of Nun, succeeded Moses and became the next leader of the Jewish people. He was chosen to be leader because he was Moses' King David. He led the Jewish people through many wars, winning victory after victory. And when the time came for him to pass on the mantle, Mordecai refused to bow down to him. I bow down only to God, he said. Mordecai taught us that we must always be proud to be Jews, and we must stick up for what is right.
The next exhibit will discuss the very special book called Ethics of Our Fathers, Pirkei Avos. In that book, it teaches us about the 3 spiritual pillars that hold up the entire world. Our prayer, acts of loving kindness to be kind to one another, and the study of the Torah.
Praying here at the Western Wall in Jerusalem. They're not just swaying back and forth, saying a whole bunch of words written in a prayer book. They're concentrating. They're trying to talk to God, to thank him for what they've been. Now let's look at the second practice, acts of loving kindness. Acts of loving kindness are especially fun to do because you can usually see how much effect you have on other people. And when you do Hachnasat Kala, helping to pay for the wedding of a poor bride, like the one we see before us, you are doing a very special act of loving kindness, helping 2 people build a new Jewish family. Now, let's look at the third practice, the study of Torah. Torah is not just a book of rules and regulations.
The 10 commandments that Moses brought down on Mount Sinai to the Jewish people. Commandment number 1, I am the Lord your God. What is commandment number 2? That we shouldn't worship anybody else except God. Commandment number 3, you shouldn't use God's name in vain. We only use God's name during prayer and times that we're allowed to. We don't even write God's name except in the prayer book and in the Torah scrolls. If you notice on the wall panels, every time we write God's name, we write G/D. The next exhibit, a 4-minute video describing and explaining the backdrop painting of the hand, the rock, the spear, the gun, the spear, the plowshare. How everything in the future, in the very near future, will be used for positive purposes, and ultimately the world will be a perfect place to live in, just like God intended all along, and the video will explain.
When I grow up, I'd like to be a pediatrician. When I grow up, I'm going to be a musician.
Ask your grandparents if they ever imagined when they were kids how many new inventions would appear in their lifetime, and that their grandchildren would be playing computer games. Ask them if they ever imagined there would be so many advances in medical science, and that we would be able to heal so many of the illnesses and diseases we're learning how to cure today. Ask them if they ever imagined when they were children that in their lifetime they would be able to turn on a television news program and watch men walking on the moon. The world sure has changed, they would say. And they're right. But think about all the changes that will happen in your lifetime, and all the changes that will happen when one day soon, we will live in a perfect world. That's right, a perfect world. Because the Torah teaches jealousy and hatred. The perfect world with no more poverty and no more war. Coming soon to your neighborhood, just as God intended all along. Think about it.
In our next exhibit, in the center is a scaled-down model of the second holy temple that was in Jerusalem. Around this temple, you are going to see 3 stories that happened on the Temple Mountain before the temple was built. On my right is the story of Abraham, where he thought he's going to sacrifice Isaac. The other end of the temple is the story of Jacob, Yaakov's dream of angels going up and down the ladder. And the story that I'd like to speak about is the story of the 2 brothers, the rich brother that lived on one side of the mountain and the poor brother that lived on the other. I'd like everybody now to walk around and around the temple so everybody gets to see the 3 stories. Some of the vessels that were used in the holy temple. The shulchan, the table, which was made out of gold. This vessel is very interesting. It was made out of copper. Any priest, Cohen, before they did any type of service in the holy temple, would wash their hands and feet from this vessel. The holy ark, in the holy ark were kept the 10 commandments that Moses brought down from Mount Sinai. The menorah, the lamp. There's many different versions on how the menorah looked in the holy temple. This is Maimonides and Rashi's version on how it looked. The 2 altars, the small one which was made out of gold, and the big one which was made out of copper. Over here we have a beautiful painting of a synagogue, a shul, a shtibel, whatever you'd like to call it. This is where Jewish people do all their prayers on the Sabbath, the Shabbos, or on the holidays, on the Yom Tovim, because we do not have the third and final holy temple in Jerusalem. Over here we have a beautiful painting of my bedroom. The reason why I'm showing everybody my bedroom is because the Lubavitcher Rebbe said that when people, children such as yourself, put a charity box and a prayer book in your very own bedrooms or any room in your home, you create what we call in Hebrew a miniature temple, a Mikdash Miyat. Last and final exhibit is called the mitzvah exhibit. A mitzvah means a good deed, a commandment. Some people say that a mitzvah also means a connection, that when you do a mitzvah, you become connected to God. All these things on the back panels are mitzvah, Bikur Cholim, visiting the sick, eating in a sukkah on Sukkot, keeping the Sabbath holy, eating matzah on Passover, lighting the menorah, the mezuzah. Actually, that's just the mezuzah case. When we do a mitzvah, what happens is the Good Deed Clock, not the physical one of the Great Jewish Children's Expo, but actually the real spiritual good deed clock ticks faster, and that good time of redemption that we were speaking about a little bit earlier happens much, much quicker. The mitzvah that we're about to demonstrate is actually a mitzvah that Jewish women and girls do. They have the great honor to usher in the Shabbos with real candles and real flames. Girls from the age of 3 can start doing it. I'd like to show you how it's done, and then I'm going to ask a volunteer to come up here to light the candles. And of course, the good deed clock is moving faster. I'd like to ask Ben, who was behaving so nicely, to come up here and to give some charity. And of course, when we give charity, we are actually doing a real mitzvah together. And the Lubavitcher Rebbe always asked that when Jewish people or people gather together in one place to do a good deed together.
The game show, Torah Concentration, is adapted from a TV show called Classic Concentration, which airs on the Fox network daily. This is an educational game that gets the participants excited. The show host chooses 4 contestants from the audience. First, the contestant chooses a number. Then all eyes look towards the monitor, which displays what's behind the number as the show host expounds on the significance of that picture. Throughout the game, the audience is encouraged to help the contestants by suggesting what number they believe will result in a match. Even the teachers become involved. It gets very loud. Actually, for some too loud. Every time a match is made, it disappears, revealing some of a puzzle which is beneath it. Torah Concentration is exciting for kids of all ages. It has the very young kids jumping up and down, and the older kids enthusiastic. It doesn't matter whether the kid is sitting in the front or even in the back. Wherever they are involved and ecstatic. The children take this game seriously as if they were on a real television show. When they guess correctly, it's total joy. And when it's guessed incorrectly, their supporters cringe in dismay. As the game goes on and we are able to see more of the puzzle beneath, kids are all trying to figure out what the phrase is. Although all are encouraged to help out with the picking numbers, the actual solving of the puzzle is for the contestants to figure out on their own. Should they fail to solve the puzzle, the opposition then has the opportunity to solve the puzzle. At this point in the game, all children from both teams are sitting nervously to see who is going to come out victorious. And when finally the puzzle is solved, in this case, Love Your Friend, the winners and their whole cheering squad jump for joy, as if they had just won a championship of some sort. The joy, the excitement, the smiles are very heartwarming. The puzzles are chosen according to the levels of the group. Torah Concentration takes approximately 20 to 25 minutes. Now we come to a hands-on activity which is enjoyed by all. Our arts and crafts exhibit is very exciting and stimulating. The 25 minutes that it takes just fly by. Everyone is eager to participate, from the very young to the not so young. Each participant is handed a pre-designed card with an assortment of stickers on it. On the table before them are trays with a wide variety of colors of sand. The children eagerly peel off a sticker and dip the card into the color of their choice. They feel creative as they see their colorful design developing into a picture of a child giving charity. The pride on every face is so obvious as they proudly show off their craft and are so willing to talk about it. The kids are sure to take this craft home to either hang on their fridge or to frame. The last stop is at the video theater as they watch a beautiful musical on the holidays on a 100-inch screen. The publicity generated by hosting the expo will increase the awareness of Chabad in your city. It is highly recommended for a shliach that is hosting the expo to schedule an exclusive evening with his balabatim and supporters. This can include a fundraising reception followed by a private tour of the expo. The guests will be impressed to the degree that they will challenge each other on the game show and decorate their own pictures at the arts and crafts exhibit. As the evening draws to a close, one of your guests is sure to give a spontaneous talk describing his reactions to the expo.
The faces of youngsters light up in Manchester when they saw this magnificent exhibition, the exhibits within it. They only have to see this to see Lubavitch is really very much on the right track. As a new
and get involved in doing it. Even Daniel turned round after going through the exhibit hall and said to me, it was unbelievable, Mum. It was like something out of Disneyland. You know,
just thought it was excellent, real good fun. And he just couldn't stop talking about it. He just thought the games, the participation.
The barriers aren't there. There are no barriers to this. Anybody can understand it. Doesn't matter what language it is. So it should go all around the world. Please go on.
I first of all heard from my grandchildren who saw it in London, in the Alexandra Palace, and they were absolutely thrilled and they thought it was wonderful. I think you've done a marvellous job here, and I think the effect, like everything that the Lubavitch do, is going to go on and on and on.
Very impressionable. It wasn't what I expected, and it's far more.
And especially if you've got young children, they should bring them along and see this exhibition, because it shows all that's happened in the history of Judaism right from the beginning, from Avram right through to the present day, which I think is excellent. And I think you'll do very well with it. You put a lot of work into it, and it's a typical Lubavitch endeavour, and I think you should do very, very well with it.
Yes, it was very well recommended to me by a friend who had seen it in the States, and he highly recommended it. So when I came to my group and said, shall we come? It's beautiful. The way it's all set out, the way there's obviously a great deal of thought and work gone into the preparation and into the setting up of the exhibition itself.
Delighted with this exhibition. The exposure to 12,000 people, the majority of them children, is an everlasting imprint in their minds and hearts. The ripples will go very far. Unquestionably, the idea of the exhibition to reach out to those Jews who are normally not reachable is something which is very novel and something very exciting, something very, very important in Chabad Lubavitch work.
Very interesting, very exciting exhibition, which I'm sure everybody here is going to get a lot of good information and gain a lot of inspiration from.
I think it's very interesting. It's aimed at all ages, which is very important, because there's not just like 7-year-olds and there's not just 16-year-olds. It's aimed at all ages, which is...
I expected it to be a bit babyish, and I thought that I wouldn't like it. I thought it would be all about things that I knew before, but what I've seen is things that I had no idea were to do with the religion, and it has really made me be a bit more confident with the religion, and it has made me learn a lot more things to do with the religion.
Yes, one person said if the expo would only have existed on the Sunday, the impact was so enormous it would have been worth it.
What did I expect? I don't know. I knew that there would be a lot of Lubavitch background, and I thought it would be very much trying to entice one to become more orthodox and more involved. And I find it fascinating that there is so much of everything here.
I think the whole thing, the fact that so many people come from so many different sections of the community, that in itself is the greatest Kiddush Hashem.
I'm 91 years old, and I've never experienced what I've experienced today. I've been to exhibitions in my time, but this is out of this world. Terrific.
Come, it's enjoyable. It's well worth it. I think they must bring their children here, because there is so much at so many different levels that can be of value to them.
With all the attention on Christmas each year, Hanukkah stands in the shadows. With its traveling exhibit, the Chabad Center wants to give Jewish kids a chance to learn about their heritage.
It's called the Great Jewish Experience, and hundreds of children will travel through its 2-hour exhibition of 2,000 years of history during the next few days.
Of Jewish history coming to life here in Milwaukee this weekend. The Great Jewish Experience is a traveling museum on display at O'Donnell Park. Kids from Hilly Academy are visiting this morning, learning about God, creation, and the ups and downs of the Jewish people. It's a lesson for young and old alike.
Imagine getting a glimpse of 5,000 years of history in a couple of hours.
Wow. That's what these students at Cincinnati's Yavne Day School got today as they viewed a traveling exhibit called the Great Jewish Experience. It's at the Cincinnati Gardens Annex through Monday. The exhibit takes an in-depth look at many Jewish holidays and practices and teaches children to be proud of their heritage.
Unconventional display going on at the Minneapolis Convention Center. It's called the Great Jewish Experience, 2 hours that last a lifetime.
If you're a history buff and you're looking for something to do over the holiday weekend, you might want to go over to the Jewish Community Center. On display there is an exhibit called the Great Jewish Experience. It's made up of all sorts of displays, including a look at the Jewish life in modern and ancient times. There's also a game for kids, modeled after the TV show Concentration, and an arts and craft exhibit. The exhibit is sponsored by Chabad Outreach of...
An exciting exhibit on tour here in Tucson. It's called the Great Jewish Experience, the world's first traveling Jewish museum. It's touring North America, and right now it's making a stop in Tucson. The exhibit takes children back to the beginning of creation and brings them up to date through an interactive display.
Traveling exhibit opens tonight at the Knesset Center on Starin Avenue. The Great Jewish Children's Expo takes viewers through 2,000 years of Jewish history. It also features an arts and crafts workshop as well as a film about the Jewish holidays. You can call the Chabad House for times.
Experience out in Beechwood these days as a traveling exhibit on Jewish culture comes to town. It's called the Great Jewish Experience, and it opened earlier today at Beechwood's Jewish Community Center. The traveling museum and exposition uses state-of-the-art technology like robotics and computers to convey the history of the Jewish people to the visitors.
Check out Little John one more time, who is at Mendel Jewish Center, and he's learning a lesson about the Jewish heritage. Little John, hi.
How you doing? Here we are. Now, let me tell you, we're in the craft room here, and remember how you couldn't keep in the lines when you color?
Yeah.
Well, in the 90s, they have a different way you do this. That all you do is you peel the edge here. You see this? And by the way, charity is the universal word here, charity. And what you do is you just peel.